It is the pale-skinned twin of a pair of beach-time gyaru cuties, focusing on being a master of the soundboard and dropping some sick beats on the sands. It is SWS01, Bear Pearly, with a kit of Precognition, Anti-Air, Tornado, Flight Legs, and the leg ability of Mariner, which grants S rank on aquatic terrains, in addition to the leg standard matches. Now, in contrast, and rather in comparison to how the Leafy Sea Dragon Leafy Tan did with her overall coverage, focusing mostly on Mudshot and anti-sea coverage, Bear Pearly as the seagull cutie of the pair focuses more on what we've actually seen pretty conventionally up to this point already in current competitive meta, and that is sweeping enemies into the air and basically using surface-to-air missiles to launch them out of the sky after launching them up there herself. But still going to be a very powerful coverage type model if used correctly, focusing on a lot of very high speed and making sure that she can gun down anyone she sweeps up. Precognition on the head part is a support-based skill that, when activated, will grant 3 random buffs to all allies across the team. This buff pool can be anything from stat cleanse to conceal, fight boost, mobile boost, shoot boost, or anything else of the like. You get 3 random buffs from that pool applied to you all at once. And given that you can hold a maximum of 4 buffs at any given time, this does mean that you can essentially stack it to a point or even reshuffle your buffs if you got a set of buffs that you perhaps may not be able to use super well or very efficiently. And given that she has 2 uses, do make sure and I do encourage some caution with using that willy-nilly, just that you don't waste the opportunity to use those. Anti-Air on the right arm is a conventional shooting-based skill, but gets a very powerful damage bonus when its required condition is met. While its base damage is moderately low at 834, if you are attacking somebody that is a flight-based leg or is converted to a flight-based leg, cough cough, tornado, you get a staggering ×7, ×8 if level 100 for the part, damage bonus and piercing when attacking that particular enemy. So if you're fighting somebody who focuses on a lot of really high dodging or grazing and speed with a flight-based leg, or if you caught somebody in the air with a tornado attack, this is going to be a really good way to gun them down quickly and almost guarantee 1 to 2 turns, 2 turns tops, that this enemy will not be lasting long. Tornado on the left arm is an ailment type paralyzed skill that, when used and attacking the foe correctly and successfully, will sweep the enemy up in the air and render them unable to dodge or defend for a short amount of time. Additionally to this, while it is the shortest duration of a paralyzed ailment compared to Thunder or Freeze Shot or something of the like, Tornado has a little bit more of a kick to it. Tornado, when used and inflicted on the enemy, will also change their leg type and be treated and seen as a flight-based leg. And wouldn't you look at that, with the right arm of anti-air, she can basically go from left arm to right arm and back again as freely as she pleases, as long as she's able to successfully sweep the enemy in the air or catch somebody who is already a flight-based leg at that point. For any other purpose at this point, Tornado is also very useful for even just stopping enemies, even just for a half second of time, to buy yourself a moment of respite to be able to relax and catch your breath so that you can replan your strategy if things are turning against you. Flight Legs means that Fair Pearly will have a pretty solid coverage across most terrains, focusing on a high dodge and high mobility, as you see here, at a mobility of almost 1,000 at 975, and an evade at almost 2,100 at 2059. She's going to be very dodgy and very fast, so it's going to be pretty tough to actually catch her unless you're using a sure hit attack. And even anti-air might struggle to catch her on some points because her evade is so high. And when it comes to a terrain coverage, she's not bad either, like I said, arguably one of the next best under Biped in terms of terrain matching for the most part. However, the leg ability of Mariner is a very advantageous addition to her kit, as it does mean that while most leg types will be struggling on aquatic and sea-based terrain, which is very difficult to match on unless you're a sea-based leg or a float leg if you just want to ignore it outright, having that high base mobility and evade and S-rank on a terrain most others are honestly struggling on or will not be focusing on speed on will absolutely guarantee that Fair Pearly can keep the advantage at almost any time she's on the field. All this being said though, as a pure set score, I honestly still have to rate Fair Pearly a pretty well-rounded 7.5 out of 10. In contrast to Fair Pearly, who basically is ready to go right out of the box. In terms of Leafy Ton, I should say, I do apologize, with between Anti-Jammer, Mudshot, and Anti-C, and Leafy Ton is able to cover her own weaknesses particularly well. Unfortunately, Fair Pearly doesn't have that advantage in a number of different ways, so it does kind of hurt her overall viability just a little bit, but not enough to completely render her out of viability and competitive meta. Precognition is already really solid for stacking a bunch of buffs at once, even if they are randomized. Anti-Air and Tornado is already a pretty competitively viable comp that we've seen countless times in PvP already, so really nothing special there, and she can use them pretty readily, especially given that her success on both arms is pretty high, at between mid-1100s to low 1200s between both arms either way. She can hold her own pretty fairly well. However, with a melee resist of 791 and a shoot resist of 696, she is going to be remarkably squishy in terms of damage reduction, so a little caution is advised if you are planning to use her. However, with armor ratings at 3419 for the head, 3300 per arm, and 3360 for the legs, not necessarily terrible, pretty much right where females tend to want to sit when it comes to their HP base, but you still want to make sure you try to dodge or graze as much as possible or bank on it to keep that damage low, because if she takes a hit, it is going to be moderately painful. Also, it is worth noting that despite the advantage on aquatic-based terrain, because she is flight-legged, it does also mean that she has a weakness to anti-air herself. So if you are planning to fight a Fair Pearly at any given point, bringing anti-air anywhere on the team will basically guarantee you a pretty swift and easy victory. As mixed parts, I do have to rate her just a little bit higher at an 8 out of 10. Given that by herself she is a pretty relatively synergetic kit, and you can use her pretty readily out of the box with no real setup required, unlike Leafy Ton, who basically covers her own weaknesses and has no terrain issues whatsoever. Fair Pearly trades that overall that all-rounded balance for higher speed and evade, but also with a little more of a well-rounded kit, where you can use it pretty easily and with a stop ailment to buy yourself some time, where Mudshot does not do this. It does mean you can use her pretty reliably. As mixed parts, if you were to say split her arms up between two different allies, or even put Anti-Air and Tornado on the same bot, or Precognition on another, or even just for the flight legs alone, they're all very powerful and very widely versatile parts that you really can't ever go wrong with using in any way you look at it.